The Week 6 preview episode of the Bears Talk Underground is brought to you by, MyBookie, of course. Remember, guys, who you're betting on is just as important as who you're betting with. So that's why when anybody asks, I always say, go with MyBookie. They are your best bet this season. They've been in business forever. They've had great reviews online, and their mobile site is so easy to use. Now, that is why I'm urging you to make your way over to MyBookie. You win, and they pay. It's as simple as that. They have in-game live betting, over-unders on fantasy points scored, and the most rewarding player perks in the business. They are currently being slammed with new bettors and want to give everyone the best service possible. And if you're willing to make a deposit after 7 p.m. Eastern, they'll give you an additional $25 in free play on deposits over $100. Join now, and MyBookie will match your deposit dollar for dollar by using promo code BEARS25 to activate the offer. So visit MyBookie online today. That's MyBookie, MyBookie. And don't forget to use the promo code BEARS25 when creating your account to claim up to $1,000 in free play. And if you're willing to hold out until after 7, you'll get that extra $25. So there you have it. MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid. This week on the Bears Talk Underground. After a short hibernation during the bye week, our beloved have awoken from their slumber and are back at work, preparing to extend their 3-game winning streak and keep their spot atop the NFC North when they travel to South Florida to take on the Dolphins on Sunday. Can the Bears pick up where they left off against Tampa, or will they suffer another Dolphins hangover? Kevin Nogle from SB Nation's Phinsiders joins us on the Week 6 preview episode of the Bears Talk Underground. It's the first of 4 straight against the AFC East in what should be an interesting stretch for our beloved, and it will close out the second quarter of the schedule in the next few weeks. What's going on, everybody? Larry D back for the Week 6 preview episode of the Bears Talk Underground, and thank you to everyone who joined me on my special episode earlier this week with my talk with Jeff Pearlman. I was very proud of the interview. I thought it went really, really well. Got a lot of great feedback from everybody, and including a few of you making commitments to go ahead and buy Jeff's book, Football for a Buck: The Crazy Rise and Crazier Demise of the USFL. It's a page turner for sure. It was a lot of fun to read, and even more fun to actually talk to the man himself who wrote it. So it was a great pleasure of mine to have him on the show, and hopefully we have a reason to do it again sometime in the future. It was a lot of fun. But here we are, back to business with the Bears Talk Underground, talking about our beloved Chicago Bears, as I said in the open, looking to extend their 3-game winning streak. You know, after the debacle in Green Bay, 3 straight victories for our beloved heading into the bye. And here we are, like I said, the first of 4 straight against the AFC East in a stretch that sets up favorably for the Bears. I mean, you might be worried a little bit about what might happen on the road because out of the 4 performances we've had thus far, the road games were the troubling ones. Obviously, the first one against Green Bay on the road, and then week 3 against Arizona, that really shaky start at the beginning, and then having to claw our way back to only win, a 2-point ball game over the Cardinals. So not our best performances in those 8 quarters of football. We've so far this year we play our best football at home in the friendly confines of Soldier Field, but we'll see how things go for us on Sunday in Miami, despite the fact that we will be wearing those god-awful orange jerseys. I've made threats that I would not call the Chicago Bears this week, that in total protest of the orange jerseys, I would only refer to them as the Windy City Pumpkins, but I'd like to be that petty, but I'm not going to be. So our beloved travel down to Florida on Sunday to take on the Dolphins, and having Kevin Nogle on here in just a few moments. I talked to Kevin last night. Good conversation. Had a lot of fun talking about we had a moment towards the middle of the top, actually maybe towards the end, like 3/4 in, where he talks about Adam Gase possibly giving up the play calling duties, and who he said might be in contention to take them over should he do that. set me off. It was an ugly moment, one that I wish I could have back for the. Wait till you hear it. Wait till you hear it. You'll enjoy that, and you will also be reminded of who is out there in Miami now if you don't already know. So that would be a fun moment for everyone, because it's not one of those moments where I let my guest finish his thought and we moved on, and casually maybe I mentioned something. I immediately reacted to what he said, his answer to my question, which was, well, if Gase gives up the play calling duties, who will take them over? You definitely want to hear that, so stick around for that. But before we get to Kevin and the Phinsiders and talking about the Dolphins, we got a few things we got to talk about here on our side of things, some news and notes, and I'm usually pretty good with details, but I did not pick up on the fact that Mitch Trubisky was wearing an arm sleeve on his throwing arm against the Buccaneers, week number 4. I was reminded of it because the press can't stop talking about it now and asking him if he's going to keep wearing it. Is it his lucky sleeve now? That kind of thing, since he wore that, how athletes are superstitious and what have you, and wearing that sleeve, wasn't the cause of it, but he was wearing that sleeve when he had the best day of his pro career. And Mitch Trubisky has confirmed, for anyone concerned, he will be wearing the sleeve again this coming Sunday against the Dolphins. Says that he wore it to cover up a cut that he suffered against the Seahawks week number 2, and then it reopened again week 3 against the Cardinals. And he didn't want it to open up again against the Buccaneers, so he wore a sleeve over the cut to protect it. And now all of a sudden it's wardrobe that he can't live without because he threw for 6 touchdowns, 354 yards, and a near perfect quarterback rating on the day that he was wearing it. So he says that he's gotten threats from teammates if he doesn't wear it. So he's going to do it just to keep the peace in the locker room, if for no other reason. So keep your eye on Trubisky. If he's wearing an orange one to match the jersey, or if he's wearing the blue one that he wore on Sunday against the Broncos. I keep wanting to say Broncos. Buccaneers this past Sunday. That remains to be seen. But nonetheless, he will be wearing the sleeve pretty much now until it doesn't work anymore. So we'll keep a close eye on that. Speaking of things to keep a close eye on, actually, I don't know if I'd put it that way, but the rumor mill is heating up, and the rumor, of course, is surrounding our running back Jordan Howard, because running back Jay Ajayi for the Eagles tore his ACL and is out for the season. And the Eagles, who are kind of struggling at this point, they're 2-3 right now. The defending champs are. And in desperate need of a running game because they don't have LeGarrette Blount anymore. He's running the football in Detroit now. And with Jay Ajayi going down, I guess the cupboard is getting kind of bare as far as running backs are concerned in Philadelphia. So there's been a lot of rumors about possible trade partners and who the Philadelphia Eagles might reach out to replace Jay Ajayi so they don't have a big hole in the middle of their offense with their running game. And one of the candidates, thanks to John Clayton, formerly of ESPN, said that one of the sleeper candidates as a trade partner for the Philadelphia Eagles would be the Chicago Bears when it comes to Jordan Howard. So, I mean, granted, we talked about it with Lauren Cox over the for the bye week review, or the first quarter review a couple of weeks, actually last week. And, it wasn't so much that the Bears aren't using Jordan Howard, more so that they're not quite using him correctly. And Matt Nagy came out this past week saying that Jordan Howard is very much still a part of the offense. His lack of, I don't want to say productivity, but I don't know, I'm blanking on what the word is, but the fact that he wasn't as much of a contributor against the Buccaneers was more of a matchup thing than anything else against Tampa Bay. So that's why Tariq Cohen was more the featured guy against Tampa and seemed to be in there on the more important plays and such. And I mean, it's kind of funny to think about it because we talked about Jordan Howard 24 carries in that game, so it's not like he wasn't playing; he just wasn't making his mark on Sunday. And when we talked to Lauren about that, it was the Bears weren't really using Howard in the way that best suits him. They were trying to get him on the outside and get him to turn the corner when he's more of a downhill between the tackles kind of runner. So I don't want the Bears to trade Jordan Howard, and it wouldn't have to be a ridiculous offer in order for me to be okay with it. Because if they trade Jordan Howard for a 5th-round pick, I'd be pissed. If you trade Jordan Howard and we can get the 2nd-round pick that we lost when we traded for Anthony Miller, then okay, yeah, I can see that. That's a high price to turn down. But I don't see the Bears doing it, and I don't want them to. I didn't want them to do it when it meant we could get Jarvis Landry from the Dolphins when he was still a Dolphin during the offseason or anything like that. I like Jordan Howard, and I just think that once the proper matchup comes around, Jordan Howard's going to have that breakout game, and everybody can calm down. So, the rumor mills are just that, rumors. The Bears aren't going to trade Jordan Howard. I would be stunned if they did. In roster news, the Bears finally filled the spot for Sam Acho, having to put him on injured reserve with that torn pectoral muscle. They signed offensive lineman Brian Witzman, formerly of the Chiefs. I think he was with the Vikings earlier this year, and then he was let go. The Bears signed him to the main roster to fill the spot left behind by Sam Acho when he had to go on to injured reserve. So we got another backup offensive lineman on the team, and it comes just in time as I'm looking at our injury report here, and Eric Kush is on the injury report with a neck injury. He's been limited in practice the first 2 days this week on Wednesday and Thursday. Prince Amukamura was limited with the hamstring injury that kept him out against Tampa Bay. Marcus Cooper, however, also a hamstring injury, has not practiced yet. And here's some good news, folks. Anthony Miller was listed as full participation on Wednesday, off of the injury report today on Thursday. So that's pretty much as good as penciling him right in to play against the Dolphins on Sunday. So only 4 guys on the injured list. And actually, if you want to be technical about it, there's only 3 because Anthony Miller was not on the injured list today. The Dolphins, on the other hand, are either one of the most honest teams in football or they are severely banged up because there is a plethora of Dolphins on this injured list. Outside linebacker Chase Allen, Andre Branch, a defensive end, A.J. Derby, a tight end, and Jakeem Grant, a wide receiver. Devontae Parker, wide receiver. Kevin and I will talk about him in just a few moments. All limited in practice both days so far this week. I already talked about Andre Branch. Frank Gore didn't practice today, but it's not injury related, so I guess we won't worry about that one. Free safety Rashad Jones had a shoulder injury, but he's been full participation so far this week. Let's see. Bobby McCain, cornerback, knee injury, has not practiced yet this week. TJ McDonald is full participation, a safety. Robert Quinn was out of practice yesterday, non-injury related, so they probably gave him a day off there. Let's see. Laramie Tunzel. That's the guy that's going to get a lot of attention from the Bears if he plays on Sunday. We talk about him with Kevin because he's their starting left tackle, and when he went down last week against the Bengals, that's where things went sideways for the Dolphins all of a sudden. When he got hurt last week, they were up 17-0, and then after he went down late in the third quarter, the Bengals went on a 27-point explosion, ended up winning that game 27-17, and that seemed to be the turning point when he left the game with a concussion. He's been limited both days in practice this week. I haven't heard if he's cleared concussion protocol just yet, so he's not a guarantee to play, but he has been practicing, so that's a good sign as far as Dolphins are concerned. Ryan Tannehill, their starting quarterback, has been full participation, but he's on the report with a shoulder injury. And Cameron Wake, their dynamic defensive end, has not practiced yet this week with a knee injury, so he's not looking good for suiting up against the Bears on Sunday. But I think I even missed a few guys, but yeah, that's plenty. That's a lot of guys on the Dolphins. They look pretty banged up at the moment. And let's see, do I have anything else? Talked about the injuries, Jordan Howard, Mitch Trubisky. I think we're good for now. So I think that will do it for the news and notes. I'm looking forward to this game because I can't wait to see our team back out on the field. I want to see how they're going to respond, react, return on Sunday against the Dolphins. It's like I said in the open. Will they pick up where they left off, or will it just be another Dolphins hangover because we do not have a good history against the Miami Dolphins? So we'll have to wait and see on that. So why don't we go ahead and bring in Kevin Nogle from Phinsiders and SB Nation and preview this game, Week 6, Bears at Dolphins. It only happens once every 4 years thanks to the rotation in the NFL schedule. The Bears are playing the Dolphins on Sunday, and it's a mixed bag because we as Bear fans have a very jaded history with the Dolphins. They always seem to come in and pop up at times that they're in the best position to ruin what we've got going on. They killed our undefeated streak in 85. In 2006, the other year we went to the Super Bowl, they beat us again when we were unbeaten. And here we are riding high after one of our best victories in a long time. We're heading down to Miami to take on the Dolphins. And here to help us preview this ball game, Kevin Nogle from Phinsiders on SB Nation. Kevin, welcome back to the show, friend.
Hey, thanks very much. And where was that last Super Bowl you guys were in? Where was that held?
Oh, you bastard. It was in Miami, in the stadium where this game is taking place. That's shots fired, everybody.
That was the rain
Shots
game,
fired.
too.
Yeah.
That was the rain game.
It was the only one, isn't it? Isn't that like the only bad weather Super Bowl ever?
Yep. And Prince out there playing Purple Rain in the Rain.
Yeah.
And that was a good game.
One of the all-time great halftime shows, actually.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
that's probably the one thing that went right for me that night was enjoying the halftime show. But thanks for bringing that up. By the way, that was awesome.
I was going to bring up 85, but you did that already, so I got a shot in there somewhere.
Well, here's the other thing is the last time that the Bears were in Miami was a Thursday night game where we shut the Dolphins out. So I'm hoping that history will repeat itself. It was 2010 that happened. So maybe that'll be something that occurs. I mean, that wouldn't.
No, the Dolphins have this high-powered offense that scored like 24 points in the past 2 weeks. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Bears and the Dolphins have something in common this year in the fact that they both had some pretty epic fourth quarter collapses this year. I mean, the only real difference is the Bears did theirs on national television. So that, at least only a regional audience got to watch the Dolphins do their thing against the Bengals on Sunday. But what went sideways with the Bengals game? You guys are up 17-0. It looks like you're kind of in cruise control there, and then all of a sudden 27 unanswered points, and you go from being 4-1 heading into this game to being 3-2 and on a 2-game losing streak all of a sudden.
Yeah, it really came down to Laramie Tunsil, left tackle, sustained a concussion, went into the concussion protocol, and as soon as he was gone, the offense just fell apart. And the Dolphins have a new center and a new left guard from their opening day lineup. Josh Sitton at left guard and Daniel Kilgore at center are out. Travis Swanson is in at center. Ted Larson is playing left guard. And so you already have basically 40% of your offensive line, not the guys you wanted, and then you lost your left tackle too. So from center to left tackle was completely new, and that offensive line could not withstand anything. So when you look at the final score, you take out the 14 points that came off of a weird pick six where Ryan Tannehill tried to just ground the ball at a tight end's feet, and somehow it hit him in the helmet and bounced straight to a defender, and then a strip fumble that bounce straight to a defender, and both of those went for points. You end up with 14 points that the Dolphins gave up on offense. So the defense did its job. But, yeah, once that offensive line was down to 2 first-day starters and 3 new guys from center to left tackle, it just became a mess.
Yeah, I heard that that you guys are down to 2 of the original 5 starters for the season. What's Tunsil's status for Sunday at this point? I mean,
he was limited in practice today. That's a good sign, I think. I mean, normally when you get the concussion, the first things you see is did not practice. Then they become limited, and then they miss a game, and then they're limited for another practice or 2 before they finally clear everything. So the fact that he's already limited, maybe it's a good sign, but we're still waiting on concussion protocol at this point.
Right, and probably won't hear about that till Friday or something like that. But,
yeah.
So I mean, I was just looking at the stats, and you know, you guys look like Gore and Howard are pretty much the same as far as yardage, but Gore is better at yards per carry because he's got like 1 less yard than Jordan Howard, but also like 20 fewer carries. How is the running game going with this offensive line being banged up?
If the Dolphins stick with the run, it actually works really well. We got away from it last week. We saw them get away from it last week when the offensive line did get banged up and Tunsil was out. So we'll see what happens this week. I would expect them to continue to try to stick with it, continue to try to force it to work, because the offense is so built around that running game working and then the play action pass opening up things for Tannehill. And if they can't get the running game going, it puts so much stress onto Tannehill and the receivers. So I would expect to see them stick with the run as much as they can. Adam Gase is a pass-first guy. You guys know that up there.
Yeah.
He is a pass-first guy, but they purposely have coaches that are there to go, hey, Adam, you haven't run the ball in a while. Get back to the run. And so they try to force him to remember that they have the running game. It's really interesting because Kenyon Drake is supposed to be the number 1 guy, but it definitely looks like Frank Gore is the number 1 guy right now. And he is getting more carries, and he's doing really well, especially given the fact that he's 1 billion years old.
Right. He's getting up there. That's definitely for sure. I mean, if he's one of the few guys still remaining from his draft class, it's gotten down to that point. So, yeah, he's definitely a bit long in the tooth. That's for sure.
Especially as a running back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you thought that him signing with the Colts, that was the beginning of the end. It's an old guy playing on a bad football team. I mean, this has to be the end, right? And instead he signs with the Dolphins this year, and you know, the guy's got the fountain of youth or something going on, because he
got to come home, and he gets to play in Miami back at home. So this is probably his last stop, but he still looks good.
Yeah, that's cool. So let's talk about your passing game, because this is I mean, when we talked earlier in the summer, we talked about that the Dolphins were purging a lot. You got rid of Jarvis Landry. You also you got rid of Ndamukong Suh and other guys, you know, tossed out of this locker room, and it was a talent purge, but one that kind of made the Dolphins, you know, not look that great or coming into the year, and yet you start 3-0. You beat the Titans week 1, and you know you got a couple other good wins in there as well. So, you know, what's left of the receiving core? I know you let go of Jarvis Landry and you picked up Albert Wilson, but you know, and you say that you're a pass first team, so the wide receiving core must be doing pretty well then.
They've actually looked really good. Devontae Parker, who should be a number 1 receiver, but has been a frustration since he was drafted. Hasn't really been there. He played 1 game so far this year. He broke a finger he got a finger stuck into a shoulder pad during practice in training camp, and it broke his middle finger. So it was really weird. He came back for 1 game, and then he injured a quadricep, and he's missed 2 games because of that. So It's weird with him, but when you look at Kenny Stills is probably, if he's not the prototypical number 1 guy like you want Parker to be, Kenny Stills is probably the number one guy because he's the most sure-handed, targeted, chemistry with Ryan Tannehill type guy. So Kenny Stills does really well. You have Danny Amendola coming out of the slot. He's playing like a slot receiver should. He's not Jarvis Landry. Nobody wants him to be Jarvis Landry. They want him to be that go out there, sit in the middle of the field, and make that sure catch type guy. Mm-hmm. And he's doing that really well. Brandon Albert and I'm sorry, what did I say? Brandon Albert. Albert Wilson. Wow.
It's like Brandon Albert. When did that happen?
These weird Kansas City Chiefs, Albert Wilson, Brandon Albert.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Albert Wilson and Jakeem Grant have this speed that if the Dolphins can get the running game and go back to that play action, if they can get the running game going, those guys can streak down the field and Tannehill can throw the deep ball and have success. So the receivers are doing well. They're missing a piece. It's probably Devontae Parker being that intermediate guy or getting Mike Gesicki as the rookie tight end, getting him more involved in the passing game. And rookie tight ends never have giant first years. So there's frustration that he's not having a giant first year, but it's also understandable.
Sure. And Tannehill not really showing any rust coming off of missing an entire season with the knee injury?
He actually has looked pretty decent. There's been a few throws, especially in preseason and then the first couple games, where you were just like, oh, what was that? These last couple games, there have been throws again that he's missed, but it feels more like we're at the point where he's trying to make something happen, realizing that they're getting blown out by the Patriots or they're falling behind a team they were up 17-0 on in Cincinnati. So it feels like he's trying to force some things. He's always been a quarterback who you get, if you have a clean pocket, he's going to do great things. But if he gets a little bit of pressure, he starts trying to force it and starts trying to rush it, and that's where you get problems. So having an offensive line that's falling apart and having no run game, you end up with him making mistakes.
Yeah, that little phrase there at the end, that was something that would probably make Bear fans salivate a little bit. You have no running game.
Do you guys have a pass rusher?
We have one. Yeah, we got one. It's you may have heard of him. You may have. I don't know.
Gruden tell us that it's hard to find a pass rusher, so I didn't know the Bears had managed to find one.
Yeah, it wasn't so much that we managed to find him. Gruden actually gave him to us, and yeah. I mean, it's amazing because, I mean, dude, that's just the gift that keeps on giving. As far as Gruden just keeps talking about Khalil Mack and like wondering out loud to the press, like I don't know why we can't get a pass rush going. It's like, what are you nuts, dude? Are you really saying this out loud? Yeah,
it's been fun just from the outside looking at it. I know Bears fans are loving it, and I know this week Dolphins fans are looking at Khalil Mack going, "Oh God, we have a banged up offensive line. This is going to be a problem."
Yeah, and the thing is, the Bears had a pretty good defense before we added Mack to it, and having Mack as part of this defense has basically amplified everyone else's abilities this year, which is the real reason why Bear fans would salivate when they hear that possibly only 2 of the 5 offensive linemen that started the year are going to play against the Bears on Sunday. They don't have a running game, and their quarterback panics under pressure. I mean, that's just something that we Bear fans would be just a tad bit excited about, because here's the tale of the tape on Mack and what he's been able to do so far. Week 2 against the Seattle Seahawks, we ravaged Russell Wilson. We sacked him 6 times. Khalil Mack only did it once. So, I mean, we got 2 sacks out of Danny Trevathan. We got, Hakeem Hicks, Roy Robertson Harris. I mean, everybody else around Khalil Mack was making plays. I mean, there was a play where Mack collapsed the pocket so that Russell Wilson had to step up into the waiting arms of our nose tackle, Eddie Goldman. It was the easiest sack of Goldman's career. So, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that Khalil Mack is doing. Stuff that technically doesn't show up on the stat sheet is the stuff that he's having an impact with. We played 4 games so far. He's got 4 strip sacks. So will he be able to extend that on Sunday will be an interesting thing to discover.
Yeah, it feels like looking back to, and granted, I won't say he's past his prime yet, even though he's having a slow start to the season and he missed the last game, and I don't know what his status will be for this game, but Cameron Wake in his prime sounds a lot like that. He was the guy that he was putting pressure on a quarterback, and if he wasn't getting there, he was probably forcing that quarterback into somebody else.
Right.
So you guys enjoy that while you have it.
So speaking of your defense, I was listening to a friend of mine's podcast, and they were talking with the Dolphins guy today, and I was saying that the run defense for the Dolphins has been pretty good so far this year.
It actually has. That was probably the biggest concern with Ndamukong Suh leaving, and
Right.
they weren't great against the run with him. So losing him was seen as this is going to be a problem. But the Dolphins are doing a great job, and it comes back to injuries again. Cameron Wake, Andre Branch, William Hayes is out for the year. They just released Jordan Phillips because he's never been a consistent player, and now he wants to blow up at coaches on the sideline about his playing time. So they've had a shakeup at the defensive line, but they've done a really good job this year of just rotating guys in, so everybody's always fresh. And it may be a passing situation where you think Cameron Wake should be in there, and they don't have him in there. They have Charles Harris in there instead, simply because they want to make sure everybody stays fresh for the whole game. So they've done a really good job with that. And then Raekwon McMillan, in what is essentially his rookie year because he was out all of last year with a torn ACL, he's actually starting to come around. Kiko Alonso, he's playing more of a traditional middle linebacker in terms of making sure everybody is set, being the play caller on defense, doing all that kind of stuff, so that Raekwon can focus more on just playing. But Kiko is back to more of a run stopper than a pass coverage linebacker. He's still covering tight ends, and we randomly saw him in this game downfield at one point because a coverage got blown, and he suddenly ended up picking up A.J. Green. Never a good situation, but it kind of worked.
Huh.
But so there's weirdness still happening, but Kiko is playing more of the run defense. Jerome Baker is stepping up now and starting to find his game. So they are getting there. They're playing well against the run. I think they can get better, but they definitely are playing well.
They also seem to have a penchant for interceptions. You know, the defense is leading the league with 10 so far in 5 games. That's, I mean, two picks a game through 5 is pretty good.
Yeah, they're definitely playing ball hawk defense right now. Rashad Jones has always been a ball hawk, strong safety, which seems weird because he's such a in-the-box, run-stopping safety. But at the same time, if you put him in coverage, he's going to go make a play on the ball, and he can probably come down with it. And now you've added Xavier Howard, who is looking really, really good as a shut-down cornerback. He's not a name people know yet, but he is a really, really strong cornerback. And then you add in Minkah Fitzpatrick, who is doing everything that the Dolphins could want from him. They put him in the nickel. They put him on the boundary. They put him back at free safety. They've had him line up like a linebacker at times. So they're moving him around, and he's doing all of it. And it's weird because you always expect that guy to come in and have that learning curve as a rookie, and he hasn't. He has just been, from day one, I got my assignment, let's go. And he's really impressive. He's going to be a star in this league, assuming the Dolphins ever start winning and so people start noticing the Dolphins.
Well, I mean, that was the thing about Minkah Fitzpatrick when he got drafted. I mean, he was drafted number 11 overall, and he was cited as one of the truly top talents in the league. But, you know, because he bounced around so much at Alabama, he kind of was labeled as a master of or a jack of all trades, but master of none kind of thing. And then you tell me that the Dolphins are literally doing that with him, spreading him out all over the field and moving into different positions. So they're kind of just like playing to the strength. He's not going to be a free safety for every snap. Maybe we're going to move him up to the line of scrimmage and he'll be a hybrid, like a Deion Buchanan type of guy, or then we'll put him out in the slots and then maybe we'll have him out wide or something like that. And it's kind of, you know, as he progresses throughout his career, it'll be one of those guys you have to identify where he is on the field at all times.
Yeah, I think that's what they're going for. I think eventually he settles down into a free safety type of role. But, yeah, they definitely are looking at where is our weakness, how can Minkah fit Minka fit that weakness and help us? And they're putting him there because the plan coming into the season was he was going to be a third safety and they would play a lot of three safety type looks. And then nobody could claim the second outside cornerback position. Xavier Howard had one, but nobody seemed to want the other one. Cordrea Tankersley had problems with it. Torrey McIntyre, who's actually coming on now and is playing really well, but he was a guy that nobody knew, and suddenly he started getting in there. They've had, I'm blanking on a name right now, but a guy they released because of injury during the off season. He was supposed to be in there, and they just never found anybody that could take it. So at the end of the day, they ended up going, well, Bobby McCain, you have to move from nickel corner out to the outside. Now how do we fill the nickel corner spot? And that's where Minka, okay, that's yours now. And so he started the year primarily there, but now they are starting to move him around a lot more, and you're seeing him make plays because of it.
Does he have any of the 10 interceptions?
He picked off his first pass this past week. No, I'm sorry. It was 2 weeks ago. It was against Brady. He picked off his first pass against Brady.
Oh, not a bad way to start. Nice job.
Yep.
So what happened in that Patriots game? I mean, you come out, you got the 3 solid wins. You're 3-0. You're a surprise team out of the gates, and then you go to Foxborough. And I personally was expecting, something a bit more competitive after, the turd that the Patriots laid against the Lions the week before on national television, and it was not at all. 38-7 being the final score in that one.
And that 7 came after they pulled Tannehill and most of the starters, and Brock Osweiler somehow went in there and scored. So I don't know. I couldn't even tell you. It was like the team didn't even get off the plane. They came out on the first drive. They hit a 22-yard pass, and then they did nothing else after that on offense. And the defense actually tried to play pretty well, but it was 3 and out, and the defense just got worn down. And you can't do that against Brady.
Right.
So I think part of it was Brady did not want to have 3 straight losses. He didn't want to fall behind the Dolphins by 3 games, essentially. And then suddenly they came out on fire, and the Dolphins got punched in the mouth and never responded.
So was it more of a, like, the Patriots have your number kind of thing, or was it just a really bad day?
I think probably both. I mean, The Dolphins haven't won in Foxborough in forever. Just going into Foxborough is tough enough for the Dolphins. They can play the Patriots well in Miami, but they can't do it in Foxborough. So the Patriots definitely have the Dolphins' number. And then I think it was just – and the good thing was everybody played badly. So it wasn't, this guy played badly and they lost, and later in the year we'll have that guy play badly. It was like the whole team just went, nope, we're taking a bye week this week, and everybody played badly. So hopefully, and granted, now we have the second loss right after that, but hopefully they are able to rebound and put that behind them, and that's the only truly bad game they have.
Right. Kind of like, ironically sounding like what happened with the Bears and the Buccaneers. Is like, I know that the Buccaneers aren't world beaters, but I know that they were a hell of a lot better football team than the one that showed up to Soldier Field, a couple of weeks ago. I mean, I thought the Bears could win if they could limit what Fitzmagic and those guys were capable of with their big plays on offense. But if you'd have told me the final score was going to be 48-10, I'd have told you that Tampa Bay kicked our ass.
Yeah, it definitely that game. You're right. It kind of felt the same way. I don't know what the Dolphins did. They got out there and they never showed up.
Yeah, those are hard games to sit through, aren't they?
Oh, it was interesting because now we have the collapse as the second comparison. So which was worse? And I think it was the Patriots game because at least with the Bengals game and a collapse, you were in the game and you can pinpoint, okay, what happened? In the Patriots game, you just sit there and you're like, they really didn't get off the plane. They could have put 22 dudes out there and just said, hey, go play football for 60 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, I've often, I've argued with people or, former teammates when I, back from my playing days, my senior year, my junior year, we made it to the semifinals. So we're one game away from state, and the team came and played us, and we got housed in the second half. I mean, they just smoked us in the second half, but we knew the entire fourth quarter we were going to lose this game, kind of thing. It was a blowout in the second half. Then the year later, in my senior year, we lost the game on the last play. And I will argue until I'm in my grave that I would much rather prefer to lose in a blowout than I would to have to deal with the soul-crushing moment of losing the game on the last play. I would think that we're in it until the very last moment. I would much rather just know the game is over. They were better than us today. You know, we'll get them next time, kind of thing, rather than like, we got it. No, that's it. We lost. Damn it. You know, I would, as far as, you know, what I went through emotionally on those two different days, you know, both were heartbreaking losses, but the one where we got beat by 30 points was much easier to swallow than it was to lose by 2 points on the last play of the game.
Yeah. I can definitely see that, especially on the field and sitting there going, okay, we're in this, and no, we're not. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as being a fan, it is difficult to choose. I mean, I don't know which one would be. I mean, I guess the blowout loss to the Patriots would be easy to write off. This was a bad day. We just didn't show up. It's Brady and the Patriots. This happens, you know, that kind of thing. I mean, and also because I can relate to what happened to you guys last week because I watched it happen to my team week one. We had the Packers by the throat. Literally they were booed off the field at halftime. I could not believe my ears what I was hearing. Lambeau booed the Packers off the field at halftime, and then, you know, literally held them clean until the fourth quarter, and then it just went off the rails completely in the fourth quarter. And next thing you know, it went from let's just get through these last 15 minutes and get out of here to what the hell just happened?
I go back and forth. I really do, because you're right. You can sit there and go, okay, the Patriots, the Dolphins in Foxborough, there's mitigating circumstances here, so maybe I can understand it, and it's a bad week. And then the next week, go out there and you get that 17-0 lead, and it felt great. And then it all fell apart, and it was like, okay, now what do I do? So either way, you can't be wrong. And it's sad that we're discussing which hurts more. It'd be much better to turn that around. Hey, which win was best? But yeah, that's where the Dolphins are right now. Which loss hurts more?
Yeah, I mean, it's been even though we are 3-1, it very much has been an up and down road for the Bears as well. I mean, I heard Matt Nagy say in an interview, we've got 3 victories and we won 3 different ways. You know, we had the one where we had the lead and held on to it to win. The win over Seattle, the one where we got off to a slow start and had to come back and win against Arizona, and then the one where everything absolutely went right and we blew the other team out in the game against Tampa Bay. So they're figuring out different ways to win, and they also, you know, had to learn a hard lesson against the Packers in week one. So it's been a crazy year, and we squeezed a lot into these first 4 games. And, you know, people were thinking that the early bye would be a bad thing, but you know, I thought that our bye ended up being in just the right place for this team.
Yeah, I don't know. It just was so painful these past 2 weeks. And I think that the funniest part about the whole thing is probably the fact that the Dolphins are still 3-2.
Yeah.
They're still a winning team. They're still in first place, or they're tied for first place. The Patriots have them by the tiebreaker, but they're tied for first place in the AFC East. The wheels have not completely fallen off, but it definitely feels like it sometimes.
Yeah, to have a blowout loss and then to have it one pulled away from you, and then, you know, people looking at your schedule. Week 1, you beat the Titans. Okay, great, that's week 1, and then you got the Raiders and the Jets. Not exactly 2 world beaters there, and you know, then you play the Patriots and you lose big, and you're like, oh, okay, will the real Dolphins please stand up, kind of thing. And then, you know, you have a 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other day against the Bengals, and there are a lot of questions about which team do we believe in here? Are the Dolphins pretenders, or contenders? Are they the ones that are going to challenge the Patriots this year, or are they going to be like the Chiefs of 2018, where they get off to this undefeated start and then all of a sudden just kind of disappear into obscurity?
Yeah, and nobody knows at this point. It's just such a weird feeling. And what'll be interesting is, I think if I'm right on your guys' schedule, you play the AFC East the next 4 games.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we're
I think
starting with
you. Yeah, you go Dolphins, Jets, Bills, Patriots, or something like that, right?
We got Dolphins, Patriots, Jets, Bills. So we got Brady and company next week.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting. As you guys come out of that, it would be interesting to talk to you then and go, okay, now what do you see out of the AFC East?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's I mean on the outside looking in, it's not ridiculous to think the Bears could go 3-1 in this stretch. 2-2 is also likely, just because we're a snake bit franchise when it comes to the Dolphins. They always seem to be able to figure us out one way or the other. I mean, like I mentioned before, our last trip to Miami was a good one, but that was 8 years ago, and that was our last playoff team was in 2010. So I mean, you know, who knows what could happen now. And then, like we just talked about a moment ago, the questions surrounding the Dolphins. Which team are we going to see? The ones that managed to beat the Titans week 1, and the Titans are looking pretty good right now, or you know, the one that just got blown away by 2 good football teams in the Patriots and the Bengals. So you know, what's really going on
they're
there?
definitely a question mark at this point, and I wish I could give you some sort of idea, because watching this team and trying to go back and look at the film and try to figure out what it was, other than Laramie Tunsil going out, there's not a lot of answers to questions right now.
Yeah, that's not a lot of fun when you can't quite pinpoint what it is that's plaguing the team, you know, especially when those performances came back to back the way they did.
Right. At least the one good thing is, at least I can't pinpoint it and go, it's Jay Cutler.
Well, hey, Jay Cutler beat the Patriots last year, though, didn't he?
Yes.
But that was also in Miami, wasn't it?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So, but
yeah,
you know, one good thing he did last year was he beat the Patriots. So, yeah, and then he didn't come back. So he also did that for you. So he's just he's on now, you know, reality television being awkward for everyone now. So I mean, it's he's doing what Jay Cutler
so much fun to watch.
Yeah, I can't make myself do it. I've never been a reality TV guy. This is just not enough. I couldn't do it. You know,
I've watched like clips, like fast forward through an episode just to see where he's on, and then stop and watch that part, and then fast forward again. But no, it's fun because he is so awkward.
Yeah. It makes you wonder exactly how it was he was able to pull a cutie like Christina Cavalier, whatever the hell her name is. So I mean, you know, it's like, how does that guy get that girl? Like, I don't get it. I mean, is it an opposite attracts thing? Because they couldn't be more different from each other. So, but anyway, back to football. So I mean, but you know, we're year 3 for Adam Gase, and when we talked over the summer, it's like, you know, this is pretty much the first team that's pretty much all his, because he's gotten rid of guys like Landry and Ndamukong Suh. You thought in an effort to take better control of the locker room, he got 2 of the more volatile guys out of it. And you know, how are things looking now? I mean, how are people looking at Gase now, especially after these last 2 weeks?
After the last 2 weeks, it's been a lot of he needs to give up the play calling. And I can see that to some degree. That the play calling has been suspect. A lot of people point to it was a 3rd and 1, and they went deep to Kenny Stills instead of just giving it to Frank Gore and letting him get the 1 yard. Looking at that play, I really think Ryan Tannehill checked out of the run and looked at the defense and said, we've got a deep shot here. And he took it, which is funny because if they had run it for half a yard and hadn't picked it up, fans would have been like, you need to be more aggressive and go after them. So I get it. There's always – hindsight is always 20/20, and there's always frustration. I will say he has called some games lately where you're just like, what are you doing? And part of that may be the running game isn't there, so he's trying to stick to the short passing game to make up for it. But it feels like the offense is missing something. And maybe that is Devontae Parker, like I said, with that intermediate route. But the offense is stagnant right now. Something needs to be shaken up. And if it's giving up the play calling by Adam Gase, maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But overall, there are fans that are ready to move on again. And it feels like that this is about the time every 3 years that Dolphins fans get to the point of, hey, we need a new coach. So it's becoming more vocal after every loss. It usually does. We're also seeing a lot of the Ryan Tannehill is a garbage quarterback. Why is he still playing in this league type comments come out from fans.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, Ryan Tannehill is Alex Smith. Ryan Tannehill is the guy that is a good starter, above average maybe, not somebody that can pick up the team and carry it, but if you give him the weapons and you give him the time, he can win football games and get you to the playoffs. You don't get rid of Alex Smith until you have Patrick Mahomes. And
right.
That's where the Dolphins, I think, are right now. I think that's the same thing with Adam Gase. He is going to be a really good head coach. He's still finding himself. It is only year 3, and we can look at year 2 as a throwaway year when he lost. Really, I think it was 12 starters ended up on injured reserve with like another 3 or 4 key contributors. So there were more people on injured reserve than there were on the practice squad last year. It was ridiculous. And this year, it's not getting any better for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, who would take over play calling duties if you were to give them up?
I guess Dow Logan's.
Oh, God. No, you don't want that to happen. You don't want that. Oh, God.
I mean, you guys know what we have in these coaches.
Oh.
I think it's him, but I don't know.
I would recommend highly that Adam Gase doesn't do that. I would just hang on to the play calling duties, make them pull that playbook out of his cold, dead hands rather than hand it over to Dole Loggins. I do not recommend guys do that. I completely forgot that Dole Loggins was down there. Oh, God help you all. It's it's not a good thing if you turn the book over to Loggins. That's not good at all. So no.
Good to know.
Yeah. No, I would you'll be hearing from me if I hear that happens. It's like, dude, get ready because it's gonna you think the offense sucks now. Wait till this guy gets a hold of it. Good God. Yeah, no, I mean, granted, we didn't have a whole lot to work with last year, but it was more about the way that he used personnel and the plays that he called and when he called them more than anything else. So, I mean, the cupboard was bare, but he didn't do a thing with what he had. So, I mean, it was really bad last year. So, I mean, speaking seriously now, I don't think your offense will get any better if you turn the keys over to him. It's I wouldn't trust him. I really wouldn't. So, but so we got this game coming up on Sunday. The offensive line may be an issue. If Tunsil comes back, you guys got a better shot. What's the outlook for the Dolphins on Sunday? What do you think how are you looking at it?
I think it really may come down to what the offensive line is able to do. Is Cameron Wake back? It sounds like he's going to be, but he didn't practice. So it's still a question mark there. I think that you have a big question mark with the Dolphins. And if they show up and are the team that showed up in week 1 and week 2 and the first half of the Bengals game, they can be something special. They can do some things. If they are the team that showed up in New England and in the fourth quarter against Cincinnati, you guys are going to have a field day. So if Laramie Tunsil's out of the concussion protocol, if Cameron Wake is able to play, if Andre Branch is able to play, if Bobby McCain is able to play, and these are all guys that are either starters or, in Andre Branch's case, the number 1 reserve defensive end, you're looking at a team that, depending on those guys, that's how they're going to play.
Okay. Yeah, I can feel that. And I can tell you from our perspective, Trubisky is similar to Tannehill in that he doesn't appear to handle pressure very well. He moves around well in the pocket, but he gets a little too happy with his feet, makes bad decisions. So if your pass rush can make a dent, it could get interesting. He may make a mistake or two that will help you guys extend your lead in NFL interceptions for the year. I mean, he's not as bad as Jay Cutler as far as him just trying to make something out of nothing with some of those situations, but he's more of a guy that will try to force something. Like before the Tampa Bay game, my description of how Trubisky was playing was he would try to force it to guys that aren't open, and he would miss guys that were wide open. And the Bears had all day and forever for Trubisky to throw the ball on Sunday. He had his best day ever. So I mean, it's really not rocket science when it comes to Trubisky. You give him the time to throw. He keeps his fundamentals. He'll find the receivers. He'll make the right decisions and the right throw. So if the Dolphins can disrupt that, it would give you guys much better chance to win the game on Sunday.
And that's what's weird about Tannehill, too, is if you do it as a designed rollout and he's bootlegging, the guy is incredibly accurate when he's on the run. But if it is I've got to get out of the pocket because it's collapsing and now I'm trying to do a scramble drill, he suddenly loses. He either locks in on one receiver and tries to force them the ball, or he doesn't make the right decisions. He looks deep when there's a guy wide open 5 yards away. He looks at the guy 5 yards away and there's a guy open 10 yards down the field. He runs too close to the sideline and can't do anything with it and has to take a sack. It's weird when it's designed. He can do it. If he is off script, you're a coin toss on what he's going to do with it.
It's I mean, I hate to say it, but that also sounds very Cutlerish as well. I mean, there were times where it's just like, oh God, what's he going to do? What is he going to do? Oh God. And then the ball's in the air and you have no idea what's going to happen. Is somebody going to come down with it? And there are times when Jay throws the ball, please let it hit the ground. Please let it hit the ground. Please just let it hit the ground. There were days, I mean, you definitely your butthole would definitely pucker up sometimes when Jay Cutler's back up to throw the ball. It would just be very interesting. And
I do not miss last year at all.
Yeah,
I don't miss it.
Well, it's the past 8 years of my life, buddy. So there were a lot of good and bad days in there, but there was a whole lot of stress in between, man. Let me tell you. So, Kevin, I appreciate you coming on. I enjoy talking to you about these about this snake bit this franchise that seems to have our number, and I would really appreciate it if you guys could not do that this weekend. The game is going to be hard enough for me to watch because we're wearing our god-awful orange jerseys on Sunday. And
I will say that I thought that was a brilliant move by the Bears to pull those back out and announce, hey, we're going to wear them the first time in Miami, because the Dolphins wear that white so that the opposing team is in their dark colors. And with the canopy, you guys haven't been there since the canopy came on.
Right.
That canopy, it covers basically from like a line straight down the middle of the field all the way through the home sideline. It leaves the visiting sideline just baking in that sun. So it's designed perfectly for the Dolphins to have an advantage. And now you come in there with that navy, and it's like, yes. And then they said, oh, we're going to be in orange. And it was like, no.
Well, and it's as much. Yeah, I mean, as much as I'm going to hate to look at it because I absolutely just detest those orange jerseys, I did also notice that it's supposed to be 88 and humid on Sunday. Yeah. So it could very well be a stroke of genius that we're wearing orange against the Dolphins. It's not going to make me like those damn jerseys anymore, but, it could work to our advantage because it's supposed to be ungodly hot in Miami on Sunday.
It's like when the Dolphins break out their orange jerseys, they are gloriously hideous or hideously glorious because they are so ugly, but at the same time you're like, it kind of works. It's weird.
Yeah. I mean, it's I've just never been a fan. I'm almost tempted not to call them the Chicago Bears this weekend. I've been teasing that I'm only going to call them the Windy City Pumpkins for the weekend, just because I really do hate those jerseys. So
the Bears went pumpkin spice on you. I got it.
Yeah, it's what they did. They did in the fall, and they went pumpkin spice and debuted in Miami. So, yeah. So, but Kevin, I appreciate you coming back on, and where else can we find you? You got the podcast, and you're on SB Nation. Where can we find you?
Absolutely. Thephinsider.com. Phinsider is spelled PHIN cider. So everything is PH like dolphin. So thephinsider.com, on Twitter @thephinsider, facebook.com/thephinsider. Look up The Phinsider and you'll find us.
Right. Well, Kevin, thanks so much for coming back on, and hope to talk to you again real soon.
Absolutely. Thanks very much. Love doing it.
So what's it going to take to win on Sunday against the Miami Dolphins? Hopefully not much. But it's we talked about it quite a bit during the interview with Kevin. Want to thank him for being on the show. Look forward to having him back on at some point. We talked about it quite a bit that the Dolphins are kind of an enigma right now. They got off to that awesome 3-0 start. They beat the Titans week 1. They looked good while they were doing it. They beat up on the Jets and the Raiders. But as soon as they run into two good football teams, quote-unquote good football teams in the Patriots and the Bengals, they collapse. I mean, they don't show up at all against New England, and then they fall apart, much like the Bears did week 1 against Green Bay. They had that big fourth-quarter collapse against the Packers. The Dolphins had their fourth-quarter collapse against the Bengals on Sunday. Have a comfortable lead going into the final frame, and the next thing you know, everything goes upside down, and then they're losers after having a 17-point lead going into the fourth quarter. So not really sure, will the real Miami Dolphins please stand up kind of thing. With our football team, just based on how we played week 4 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the strategy is simple. Keep doing what you're doing. Not that we're going to go around and sling it for another 6 touchdowns and score 48 points or anything like that. It was more about the efficiency and making every play count the way that the Bears did against Tampa Bay in week 4. The offensive line was outstanding. They did a great job giving Mitch all the time in the world, and that's when he's at his best. He stays within his fundamentals. His feet are, underneath him. He's clear with his steps, and he gets the ball to where it needs to be. And as long as we keep doing that and mix in, Howard and Cohen running the football, we'll be fantastic on offense. And then with the defense is probably what's going to make the difference on Sunday, because and it all kind of hinges on whether or not Laramie Tunsil will play on Sunday. And if Tunsil does play on Sunday, I think the strategy is pretty much the same. You just have to attack the Dolphins, because you heard Kevin Nogle say that when he's under pressure, Tannehill's not as sharp as he is like on a designed rollout. He's the most accurate quarterback in football. But if you get him scrambling outside the pocket and it becomes street ball, and all of a sudden he doesn't know, he's making bad throws and what have you, mistakes happen, interceptions, so on and so forth. So the pressure, the key point is Tannehill. We want to keep after him. We don't want to let Frank Gore get in our way, get under our skin, and let him be a factor in this game at all on Sunday, because we don't want the Dolphins to get play action going. You heard him talk about the speedster Albert Wilson and Kenny Stills. Those guys are deep threats. We don't want the Bears biting on the fake and then getting beat deep for the big plays. So it's important to keep Frank Gore bottled up so that the run doesn't become a threat, so that we don't start biting on the run and getting beat downfield deep for the big play. So, but more importantly, we got to get after Tannehill and stay after Tannehill and hope we can force some of those mistakes that we've profited from in these first 4 games with the interceptions, the turnovers, and what have you. We'll probably have a much easier time of that if Laramie Tunsil isn't playing on Sunday, but I think we do it anyway. Maybe we even actually attack Tunsil on Sunday if he does in fact play, because concussions are a hell of a thing. he might be able to pass the test, but should he play on Sunday in this age of the NFL where we're trying to be so safe and protecting player safety and what have you? Maybe that should be a mandatory thing. I mean, I know it's not our team, so it's easy for me to say, but as far as the health of the player, maybe, if you are deemed out with a concussion, then you're out for the next game kind of thing, even if you pass concussion protocol. Just an idea. Not exactly a fan of the idea that I just came up with, but in the vein of public player safety, maybe not the worst thing in the world, and to throw the guy right back out there, especially with the opponent that's coming to town on Sunday. So maybe we do. Maybe we double up and send the pressure at Tunsil to see if he can handle it. Meanwhile, we're pressuring Tannehill into making some mistakes. And if it's not Tunsil, then yeah, we just pin our ears back and go get him. Josh Sitton is not there. Kevin Kilgore is not there. So the offensive line that the Dolphins thought they were going to have going into the season only lasted about a week or two before Sitton went down, I think, with a torn rotator cuff is what put him out. So a shoulder injury, and I don't know what Kilgore went down with. But, this is a team that suffered a lot of injuries early on in the season, and the Bears are one of the healthiest in the league right now. So we need to take advantage of our opponent's weakness, and maybe the weakness will be Laramie Tunsil if he's out there and he shouldn't be, kind of thing, or we attack his backup and force him to make some bad decisions and get after Tannehill. So we'll see how all of that goes on Sunday. I'm liking our chances. I'm definitely picking the Bears to win on Sunday. And if you want to make that pick too, be sure to go to MyBookie and, make sure you do it after 7 p.m. Get that extra $25 if you use Bears25 as the promo code. And, go ahead and enjoy yourself and make a little money and enjoy the rest of the weekend. So that will do it for the Week 6 preview of the Bears Talk Underground. We will be back on Monday, hopefully another Victory Monday, our 4th in a row, and then getting ready for the New England Patriots. So that will be that's a matchup I'm definitely looking forward to now. When I saw it on the schedule initially, it's like, I'm dreading that one. I don't know how that one's going to be. They're coming to – we just have not played well against the Patriots. We have not been on their level, and we have a legit team this year. And I'm very, very interested to see what this team might be able to do against the Patriots and how Mitch Trubisky may be able to, how the Mitch Trubisky will stand up against Tom Brady in their first matchup. So looking forward to that, but not looking past the Dolphins. We got to get through them to get to the Patriots next Sunday. So come on back on Monday. We'll talk about everything that went down and see what we got. Are we 4-1 and high atop in the NFC North? Or are we 3-2, hoping to fend off everybody else behind us? So come on back Monday, and we'll find out. So until then, my name is Larry D, and this has been the Bears Talk Underground.